What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. Going to kick off this week in this show recapping the Bulls' two contests over the weekend. The Bulls split in those contests, jumping right in here to the Bulls-Hornets contest Friday night. The Bulls would walk away from this one with a narrow victory, 129-126 in Charlotte on Friday night. Snaps that seven-game skid, so certainly a good feeling to get off of that losing streak. It was a tight back-and-forth contest really till the end there. As expected, I think the line closed at 3.5 in terms of the Bulls being favored by 3.5. So Charlotte covered that short spread there, in which I gave you guys Charlotte plus 3.5. So it actually works out in both ways there. If you're a Bulls fan, the Bulls get the victory and Charlotte covered for the sake of this show. The starting five in this one for the Bulls included Giddey, Kobe, Isaac Okoro was back in action. You had Modest Buzelis and Vooch. Interestingly enough, a nugget about that starting five, this particular starting five had played only 7 minutes together all season long going into Friday night. So good to get that group of guys back playing together. That is what this front office and Billy Donovan envisioned as the bulk of the game, starting with that group of five and really playing throughout the longevity of the season together. That was the starting five that was going to be consistent. So hopefully they get those guys playing a bunch of basketball down the stretch here, staying healthy, staying on the floor. Con Knippel was a standout performer for the Hornets in this one. He continues to wow the NBA in his rookie season here. He received his Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month award in a pregame ceremony and then promptly scored the Hornets' first 7 points of the ball game. So came out scorching hot. This kid is something. He is very fun to watch. Really the first time I've had an up-close look at watching him play. So this was certainly a guy in which is going to turn a lot of heads, and he certainly is proving as to why he deserved to be taken where he did in the draft. So definitely an exciting player there. For the Bulls in this contest, Dalen Terry was the sixth man. There was no Ayo Dosunmu or Kevin Huerter in this one. Looking at that first half, the Hornets would eventually take a 61-55 lead into the halftime locker room there. Josh Giddey had 12 points at half. Bridges for the Hornets had 20 at the halftime mark, and then Knippel had 17 at half there. A guy who stood out in this one for me for the Bulls was Patrick Williams. He played well all around back in his hometown, so it was kind of cool to see him perform like he did. I'm sure in front of a bunch of friends and family there in his hometown in Charlotte. That's certainly cool for him. He had a season-high 14 points through the first three quarters in this one. This narrow victory for the Bulls, again, snapped that dreaded 7-game skid that they were on. That was their longest losing streak since February of 2020. So good to get off that, albeit it was only very brief, as we'll get into Sunday night's very disappointing contest and the loss to the Pelicans. But anyway, snapped that losing streak. Interesting finish to the game in Charlotte for this one. For Vooch in particular, he did not play the final 17 minutes or so of that contest. Billy Donovan said post-game Friday night that not to read into it, as they need everyone in a big man rotation, basically. And he said that it just kind of comes down to matchups and where they're kind of standing in terms of a game situation. So kind of interesting in terms of a take on a guy who not too long ago, following that brutal loss to Golden State, Billy Donovan was really praising Vooch as a leader, and then down the stretch here in the final 17 minutes did not play him or rotate him in a close ball game. So anyway, the Bulls get the victory on Friday night. Knippel would finish with 33 points. I mean, that kid is something else. He's going to be fun to watch for a long time. But 33 points for him. An interesting stat here, and part of the Bulls' success in this one, they had 80 points in the paint. So the Bulls with a monster performance in the paint in this one, getting that victory. Didn't really carry over to the Pelicans game. I'll get into that in a second. Kind of jumping into that game, the Bulls had a very disappointing output in that one. And their home fans Sunday night in front of the United Center crowd. Chicago drops that game 114-104. Ayo Dosunmu was out again for this one, so Ayo continues to nurse that ailment with his thumb. The Bulls did get Kevin Huerter back for Sunday night's tilt as the sixth man, so it's good to see him back in action. Anyway, the Pelicans in large part dominated the first half of this one and ultimately down the stretch in the fourth quarter. So the Bulls really played one quarter of really good basketball, but the Pelicans took a 52-47 lead into half. The Bulls shot just 21% from three in the first half and then 35% from the field. So the woes continued in the first half for the Bulls in terms of getting going and wanting to jump out ahead and get ahead early. So what was interesting is after having those 80 points in the paint in Charlotte, the Bulls would have 32 of their first 53 shots against New Orleans come from behind the arc. So a difference in philosophy there. I'm not sure why they would alter their game plan in terms of some. I get it's a different team, but it certainly worked for you against the Hornets there. Why not try and carry that over against the lackluster Pelicans group for the most part? So, just kind of an interesting approach there, I think, stylistically. When you look at this one, the Bulls would, again, come out in the third quarter. That was their best quarter of ball in this game. They would rip off a 17-4 run to end the third period, going into the fourth quarter down just 1 point. So they were in this ball game after looking kind of dreadful in most of the first half. So they really jumped back into this one. Unfortunately for the Bulls and their fans here, the Pelicans would then go on a 26-10 run themselves in the fourth, and they would run away with this one. It's really hard to wrap your head around the Bulls' struggles with this New Orleans Pelicans team. As a fan, New Orleans has just 5 measly wins on the year, 2 of which have now come against Chicago. So it really does not make sense. I mean, this New Orleans Pelicans team is not good, but they certainly have the Bulls' number and play them well time in and time again here. So, the Bulls will see them again in Chicago on New Year's Eve. You get a New Year's Eve contest if you're looking for a little holiday fun there. If you're in the city of Chicago, the Bulls will be hosting the New Orleans Pelicans there. So their next shot to get back at them and to finally beat that team. I mean, they're at the bottom of the league standings. It's frustrating for me. I can only imagine how Bulls fans as a whole are feeling about losing to this team. So anyway, looking at the week ahead, wanted to kind of give you guys a scope of what's up next for this Bulls team. The Bulls will host the Cavs Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central. That'll be on CHSN at the United Center. Then they will go to Cleveland on Friday night, so they get a travel day Thursday. We'll be in Cleveland Friday night. That'll be a 6:30 Central tip. Then they would finish off, it looks like, the week with a Sunday matinee at the United Center. The Atlanta Hawks come to town. That'll be a 2:30 p.m. matchup Sunday afternoon. Obviously, Bears-Packers Saturday night. So hopefully we're coming off a massive win if you're a Chicago Bears fan, going and bringing that energy into the United Center Sunday afternoon against the Atlanta Hawks. So looking at those two teams just very briefly, both 15-12 on the year. The Cavs are 2-3 in their last 5. They're fresh off of an overtime loss to none other than that Charlotte Hornets team that the Bulls just saw Friday night. But the Hornets, they take down that Cleveland team as of recent, so Cleveland's definitely going to be wanting to get back on the right track. Cleveland's one of the teams that many predicted would be at the top of the East. Obviously, Detroit and, those, they're going real well here, but many people expect Cleveland to be at the top of the standings there. Really, it's probably a 3-team race in my eyes between Cleveland, New York, and Detroit. So we'll see if Cleveland can get back on track here, if they start playing better basketball. Hopefully it comes after this 2-game stretch. Anyway, the Bulls are going to have to play their best ball anyway to compete and to continue to win ball games. So look for the Bulls to hopefully come out and play well to start the week. Atlanta, on the other hand, again, 15-12 on the year. They just lost Kristaps Porzingis, and that's a big loss for that team. He's at the center of kind of what they want to do as an organization at the moment, but they lost him for 2 weeks with an illness, so he'll be down for a little while there. And that's kind of just looking at those couple of contests coming up this week. And then finally, I wanted to wrap up today's show, and I thought it was interesting. According to multiple reports, the Minnesota Timberwolves have reached out about Coby White's availability. Minnesota is reportedly not looking to wait until the February trade deadline to complete a deal for a point guard. They want to get something done rather quickly, and they are acting on it, and they reached out for a guy who I think is going to be in the talks a ton as we move through and closer to the trade deadline. It's worth keeping an eye on. The market market for Coby White as a whole, as we most likely will find ourselves in the same conversations on this show that I was having with you guys all the way back in the summer, of which Nikola Vucevic and Coby White will be the center of these talks in terms of guys that can be dealt, because it makes a ton of sense, quite honestly, given each guy's contract situation, to be moved, and they both want to play winning basketball moving forward. So over the next couple of months, we're certainly going to have a bunch of talks regarding these two guys. So, Minnesota in particular, obviously looking to contend in a loaded Western Conference. Adding Coby White would be a good fit for them. It would kind of give Anthony Edwards another guy to his arsenal there to compete with. It would be a good fit for them nonetheless. The question is, what's the deal going to look like? I'd be interested to see kind of what the package would be put together in terms of a move getting Coby White to Minnesota. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for joining me to start the week on another episode of Bulls Latest. Thanks for watching, guys. Your support goes a long, long way, as always, and we will see you guys next time.